Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 212. Without any delay, start explanation. With a single step, Tang Wulin had already leaped into the air. Having just seen that his opponent was able to use a soul skill to turn into mist, he did unleash his martial soul as it would not be of much use. Given the circumstances, he could probably do just fine without it. In the air, Tang Wulin threw a punch, and a dragon's roar sounded again from his body. The instant his simple and seemingly insignificant punch was thrown, all watching felt as though he was stretching his body, from his feet to his tailbone and then along his spine. It was as if a huge dragon was awakening. All that was stretched would eventually be put into his punch. The right fist made by the golden dragon claw hit out. Everything within 3 meters of Tang Wulin's body suddenly turned a brilliant golden color. In the next instant, with the momentum from his right-hand punch, his entire body suddenly flickered in the air. A golden band of light dozens of meters long suddenly appeared in the skies. The 3-meter-wide band seemed to vanish as quick as it had appeared. The evil soul master just managed to turn into a puff of mist in the nick of time. Even so, he still let out a wail. When he solidified into his human form again, his body swayed as it fell to the ground. Golden dragon flies. Tang Wulin's bloodline power erupted after being compressed. He used the momentum from the explosion to move his body. Under such conditions, Tang Wulin seemed to be invincible. The energy of his entire body was concentrated into a single point. It was similar to becoming one with one sword. His attack was restricted to a diameter of 30 meters and could only be fired in a straight line, but the explosion caused by the impact was 3 times greater than his usual attack power. This was Scarlet Dragon Doluoshwash's Scarlet Dragon 9 moves, third move, Dragon Flies. To be more precise, what he taught Tang Wulin was supposed to be the Divine Dragon's 9 moves. When it was applied to Tang Wulin, it became the Golden Dragon's 9 moves. Hence, it was Golden Dragon Flies. In that instant, Tang Wulin was like the Golden Dragon King extending his dragon claws. Under the impact from his body, his imposing manner seemed to say that he would kill any gods or Buddhas that stood in his way. This was Tang Wulin's first time actually using the Golden Dragon Flies technique in combat. The effects were apparent. Because this move contained not only soul power and bloodline power, it was also mixed with spiritual power at the same time, hence it was an all-round attack. Even if the evil soul master turned into mist, he was still hit by the impact. After he fell to the ground, the evil soul master dared not be careless anymore. Spots of grayish light lit up on his body. Pieces of armor that resembled leaves covered his entire form. On his back, a pair of gray wings extended. He resembled a huge bat. Battle armor. Battle armor with wings. It was 2-word battle armor. Without question, this 7-ringed evil soul master with the rank of soul sage was also a 2-word battle armor master. After his body was covered by the battle armor, the evil soul master's aura became completely different. It was known that battle armor could raise a soul master's ability by 2 ranks. Although a 7-ringed soul sage who donned 2-word battle armor could not attain the powers of a title Dolor, he could still surely surpass the ranks of an 8-ringed soul Dolor. The world around them suddenly darkened. The evil soul master let out a shrill howl toward the sky. Immediately, Tang Wulin felt as if a sharp needle had stabbed into his spirit as his head was racked with intense pain. At the same time, the bloodline within his body which had been under his control suddenly surged madly. What frightened Tang Wulin even more was that because he temporarily lost control of his bloodline, it started charging toward the Golden Dragon King's 9th seal. He was in the middle of a fight. How could it charge at the 9th seal at this moment? This was akin to committing suicide. Tang Wulin hastily bit his tongue as he desperately tried to increase his consciousness. Spots of golden light lit up on his body as he unleashed his own battle armor. Pieces of golden battle armor covered his entire body. Immediately, the surging bloodline aura was suppressed by external forces. His soul power was greatly enhanced, and Tang Wulin finally regained control of his bloodline. The visor dropped down and covered his handsome face. Tang Wulin wiped his forehead with his right hand. With a strong gust of wind, the golden dragon spear appeared, and he caught it in his grasp. A golden helmet, golden armor, and a golden visor. With the addition of the golden dragon spear in his hand, Tang Wulin's body descended slowly to the ground. His valor was extraordinary. He slashed horizontally with the golden dragon spear in his hands. His gaze burst forth with light. He bent his knees slightly, and in the next moment, he had charged toward the evil soul master again. The golden dragon spear thrust out like lightning, forming phantom spears with its movements. However, a peculiar scene occurred. Under the cover of the golden dragon spear, the evil soul master's body flickered swiftly in the air as if he had no weight. He could always dodge the attacks from Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear by a hair's breadth. His pair of sharp claws were now under the enhancement of his two-word battle armor. They were now a foot long and took on grayish, crystalline forms. While he dodged the attacks, he occasionally snuck in attacks with an upward scratch. He was truly too agile. His movements were so quick that Tang Wulin was unable to dodge him. Where the claws landed, white marks were left on Tang Wulin's one-word battle armor. However, Tang Wulin's battle armor, which was given the name Dragon, displayed incredible defensive capabilities. Wherever the evil soul master's attacks landed on his battle armor, light patterns in the shape of scales would appear, which greatly diminished the damage from the sharp claws. Usually, two-word battle armor would be able to completely overwhelm one-word battle armor, but this evil soul master clearly was not able to achieve that effect. This was inevitably connected to Tang Wulin's one-word battle armor, which was crafted from spirit alloys. However, the more important factor was Tang Wulin's own shocking defensive strength. Even so, Tang Wulin was at a disadvantage. His opponent was too fast, and his movements were unpredictable. His own attacks had no way of hitting their target, and he could not fully utilize his immense energy. Such an opponent was the most troublesome for him, since he could not make the most of his own strengths. In turn, it was not an easy task for the Soul Sage-ranked Evil Soul Master to defeat Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin's defenses were too strong. Also, with the deep impression golden dragon flies left on him before this, the two-word battle armor Evil Soul Master was being now very cautious. He fought conservatively and continuously as he attempted to weaken Tang Wulin's soul power. He kept looking for an opening for him to launch an attack. They were now in a winding battle. On the other side, the remaining 6 members of Shrek 7 monsters were not in optimistic situations either. A total of 11 evil soul masters had surrounded Yi Xinglan, Yuan and Yehui, and the others, and started launching a barrage of wild attacks. The evil soul masters were of a completely different system within the soul master's realm. This was also the case for their martial soul. If one followed the cultivation path of the evil soul masters, the abilities that one learned would also be starkly different. A 6-ringed evil soul master at the forefront was the most troublesome. They were all one-word battle armor masters, and each martial soul they unleashed was more baffling than the last. There were 4 6-ringed evil soul masters. The first one's martial soul was a huge armored skeleton, as tall as 8 meters. Its bones were extremely thick and strong, and it had the protection of one-word battle armor. It came at them from the front, wielding a massive 7-meter-long hacking knife. Fortunately, the Shrek 7 monsters still had Yuan and Yehui. She unleashed her Titan giant ape martial soul. She brandished 2 giant hammers that were not confiscated by the Academy and fought the skeleton head, blocking its attacks. The second 6-ringed evil soul master looked exactly like a clown. Half of his face was painted white, while the other half was black. He appeared to be extremely peculiar, with a constant sinister laugh. His body was ceaselessly spinning as he cast all sorts of curses such as slow or fear on the 6 monsters, weakening them. He was also hiding behind the other evil soul masters, so they could not even reach him. The third 6-ringed evil soul master transformed into a giant wolf. His entire body reeked of blood. As he fought, he even picked up the bodies of the fallen fighters in black and ate their hearts. With every heart he consumed, his attacking powers increased. The fur all over his body was iron gray and was invulnerable to swords or spears. Even Yi Xinglan's Star God sword could not break through the battle armor he had donned. The fourth six-ringed evil soul master seemed to be the most normal among the four of them because at least he still appeared human. He rode a skeleton horse which was burning with black flames and appeared slightly like the legendary nightmare. He was covered in thick and heavy black armor and wielded a great sword. He and Yu Jingyu were happily hacking away at each other. Yuan and Yehui faced the skeleton evil soul master. Yi Xinglan fought the huge wolf, while Yu Jingyu was up against the evil soul master rider. It was slightly difficult for the three of them to take their opponents head-on. When of the same ranks, an evil soul master would be stronger than an ordinary soul master. Though the Shrek 7 monsters were clearly not ordinary soul masters, these evil soul masters they faced were one rank higher than them in terms of cultivation bases. Moreover, they also had a control system evil soul master behind them who were constantly weakening them via all sorts of curses. Xie would have loved to do something about that clown evil soul master, but the problem was that he had to stay in the rear to protect Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi. Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi's direct combat abilities were too weak. If he went away, the other evil soul masters were sure to seize the opportunity to attack them. Amongst the remaining 7 evil soul masters, there were 5 five-ringed evil soul masters. 2 of them were also one-word battle armor masters, the other 4 were 4-ringed evil soul masters. The 7 of them besieged the enemy from all directions. Xie was already terribly busy. He split 3 duplicates of himself. It was as though he battled in 4 directions. Among his companions, he was under the greatest pressure. At this moment, it was apparent how much work Xie had put into his cultivation every day. His 4 copies faced different enemies and were fighting different battles. Surprisingly, he had a good amount of control over all of them. Although it was extremely strenuous for him to face this many opponents, he was fortunate enough to have Xu Xiaoyan's controls. Xu Xiaoyan was in no hurry to unleash her most powerful control-type soul skill. However, whenever Xie was faced with a difficult situation, a burst of star wheel shackles would come to his aid. Boom! Yuan and Yehui raised her right hammer and parried the skeleton evil soul master's halberd. She swept horizontally with her left hammer and swung it straight toward her opponent's chest. The skeleton evil soul master growled with a deep voice. There seemed to be soul flames dancing in his eyes. He squatted down and brought the halberd before him. Another muffled sound was heard. The skeleton evil soul master and Yuan and Yehui took a step backward at the same time. In terms of strength, the 2 of them felt as if they had met their match. Yi Xinglan was in a slightly advantageous spot here. Although it was difficult for her Stargot sword to break the giant wolf evil soul master's defenses, the Stargot sword had a sword's consciousness in addition to its sword aura. The sharp sword's consciousness had been suppressing the huge wolf evil soul master from the beginning until the end. After she discovered that her opponent could enhance himself by consuming hearts, Yi Xinglan had made sure that he could not get his hands on another heart with her continued assault. Yu Jingyu was well matched in strength with his opponent. The rider had the help from the battle steed under him. The dark energy he had was very strong, but he was coincidentally up against the holy angel martial soul which was its polar opposite. The completely opposing energies of darkness and light collided with each other. They continuously unleashed terrifying energy storms in the skies. However, they were battling at night, which was obviously not in favor of holy energy. The Dark Rider felt as if he was one with his steed. The Nightmare Warhorse moved to and fro, completely in sync with him. When he swung the halberd in his hand, a dazzling black flame would burst forth in an instant and erupt with a powerful energy wave. The black flames and the rider's halberd merged into one entity and slashed downward brazenly. A pair of wings extended behind Yu Jingyu. His entire body was covered in white battle armor, and the glow from his body showered down. With the coordination of his light of judgment, he launched one attack after another. However, the Dark Rider combined attack and defense into one, the union of rider and steed. He was as steady as a lofty mountain. For a time, none of them could do anything to their opponent. However, from the density of their soul powers, it was obvious that the Dark Rider was superior. Relatively speaking, Xu Lixi was the more leisurely one among them. He had also donned his battle armor. His battle armor was white in color, but it was a different shade of white compared to Yu Jingyu's. It had no holy aura, but it looked to be extremely thick and heavy. He was heavily built and tall, but after he donned his battle armor, his chubbiness disappeared. Instead, he appeared full of power and grandeur. He stood beside Xu Xiaoyan, looking every bit like her loyal protector. The two of them were entangled in combat while the men in black far away continued their massacre in the various cars. Tang Wulin was fighting his opponent as he kept an eye on the changes of the entire situation. He only spared a few glances but had already comprehended his companion's situations. This could not go on much longer. If this continued, the hundreds of lives on the soul train would all fall prey to the evil soul masters. When he thought about this, Tang Wulin suddenly howled toward the heavens, "Fight with all you've got!" With his loud bellow, his battle armor glowed brightly with golden light. Tang Wulin's imposing manner changed instantly. He landed on the ground with his feet and was like a towering mountain. From his torso, a circle of golden light burst forth. At the same time this circle of light shone outward, the seven-ringed soul sage evil soul master, who had been keeping up using his high speed while attacking him, suddenly felt his body grow heavy, and he dropped directly onto the ground. When his pair of sharp claws scratched Tang Wulin's chest again, he felt an extremely terrifying reaction firing back at him. It shook his claws so much that they were repelled and sent flying backward. This was... Tang Wulin stomped on the ground with his right foot, utilizing Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth. 8 little golden dragons appeared all of a sudden. The powerful shockwave had shaken the seven-ringed soul sage, pulling him to ground with such strength his entire body went numb. He had heard Tang Wulin's bellow as well. When he was faced with this sudden turn of events, he activated his 5th soul skill without hesitation. At the same time, even his 7th soul ring lit up. In this instant, Tang Wulin finally knew what this evil soul master's martial soul was. A huge bat covered in armor appeared before Tang Wulin. A blood-sucking bat. This was the evil soul master's martial soul. No wonder he was so agile and could even control another person's blood. It turned out that his martial soul was related to blood. However, even if he had unleashed his 7th soul skill, the blood-sucking bat true body, the immense sucking force which came from the ground still kept him from breaking free of its clutches for the moment. Tang Wulin had already launched his attacks. Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth shook the blood-sucking bat so much that its entire body went numb. However, with the martial soul's true body's powerful defenses, his movements were only sluggish for a moment before he started struggling to free himself. Even so, the suction force from Tang Wulin's golden halo was too great. His agility was still restricted to a certain range. Tang Wulin used the golden dragon spear in his hands as a whip. He descended from the skies and crashed downward. At the same time, he let out a howl from his mouth, the golden dragon roar. Purple light shot out of his eyes like lightning from the purple demon eyes. In an instant, Tang Wulin unleashed every control-type soul skill he had. The blood-sucking bat had no other choice but to transform into a puff of mist instantly. He used the method of leaving the battlefield which he was most familiar with. He wanted to run away. However, Purple Demon Eye's spiritual shock had slowed his movements for half a beat. It was precisely this half a beat that decided the outcome of the battle. A golden silhouette leaped silently from the ground and wrapped itself around him. It pulled him down toward the ground. At the same time, in the instant where he had not completely turned into a puff of mist, Golden Dragon Spear's whip finally struck against him. The seven-ringed evil soul master wailed. A series of shattering sounds came from his two-word battle armor. He was forcibly whipped to the ground. Tang Wulin raised his right foot, and his body suddenly rose up in a whirlwind as he flew into the sky. In the spot he had just been standing now stood an extremely humongous form. It was his second spirit soul, Overlord Dragon. The Overlord Dragon's right foot stomped down brazenly without hesitation. It mercilessly stepped on the seven-ringed soul sage. The Overlord Dragon was 60 meters tall. Its weight could not even be moved by Tang Wulin with his strength of 50,000 kilograms. As the most terrifying hunter in the land, the power of the Overlord Dragon's feet immediately sent a tremor through the ground. Even the soul train which toppled over far away was shaken until it swayed left and right. Tang Wulin pointed at the car's direction with his right hand. Gold Song, go! Gold Song, which had wrapped itself around the evil soul master before this, had already turned into something akin to a sharp arrow. It charged toward the men in black with three-ringed cultivation bases. Wisps of mist scattered to the surroundings from under the Overlord Dragon's foot, shooting off at blinding speed. A puff of hot air shot out from the Overlord Dragon's nostrils. Shortly after, it suddenly opened its jaws, and a burst of scarlet flames shot forth from its mouth. The blood-sucking but evil Soul Master's soul skill of turning into mist was highly useful for avoiding physical attacks. However, when he was in mist form, the damage he took from energy attacks was multiplied. Amidst his wails, he had already taken a direct blast of those terrifying flames. However, at this very moment, countless little bats came out of the mist and flew in all directions. The evil Soul Master's methods of self-preservation could be described as ceaseless. Tang Wulin snorted. He stood on the Overlord Dragon's head and thumped his chest with his right hand. Immediately, the brownish-yellow light ring reappeared. An immense gravitational force descended from the heavens and it suppressed the little bats until they dropped to the ground. Shortly after, blades of blue-silver emperor rose straight from the ground and formed the blue-silver impaling array. Like putting sugar-coated haws on a stick, the little bats were impaled. One must be thorough in exterminating an evil. Tang Wulin carried it out wonderfully. The Overlord Dragon turned and charged straight toward the other battlefield. With its terrifying figure and huge feet, every step it took brought with it thundering power. Ever since Tang Wulin accomplished burying the dragon bones in the Dragon Valley, his Overlord Dragon Spirit Soul was able to materialize into a solid form. When Tang Wulin was burying the bones of an Overlord Dragon with grown wings on its back, his Overlord Dragon Spirit Soul had swallowed that skeleton. It then fell into a year-long slumber. When it awakened, Tang Wulin could summon it to engage in direct combat. However, it came at a price. It expended Tang Wulin's soul power at an extremely fast rate. With Tang Wulin's current soul power strength, the Overlord Dragon could only fight for half a minute. However, under such circumstances, half a minute was already an eternity. It could decide the outcome of the battle. A seven-ring soul sage had been utterly defeated by Tang Wulin within a few seconds of the Overlord Dragon's sudden appearance. At the same time when Tang Wulin shouted to his comrades to fight with their full strengths, they had simultaneously erupted with power. Yuan and Yehui howled toward the skies. The fourth soul ring on her body suddenly lit up. Her body shrunk somewhat, but her arms increased in girth. She swung the giant hammers in her hand which forcibly sent the skeleton evil soul master flying before her. Devil Titan! Yuan and Yehui leaped and spread out her pair of giant hammers. She began launching wild attacks toward the skeleton evil soul master. On the other side, Star God Sword in Yi Xinglan's hands turned into sword meteor shower. Countless sword gleams enveloped the huge wolf evil soul master. At the same time, the fifth soul ring on her body lit up. Yi Xinglan's eyes suddenly shone as brilliantly as stars. She pointed her Star God Sword toward the skies. Shortly after, she disappeared from the spot she stood. The sky suddenly turned illusory for an instant. Shortly after, a huge sword descended from the heavens as if it broke through the heavens. It plunged down instantly with its tip directed at the huge wolf evil soul master. The huge wolf evil soul master felt the great threat to his life. The sixth soul ring on his body lit up and his body enlarged again. He bent backward slightly and let out a long howl toward the skies. A halo that resembled the moon lit up behind him. The moon was blood red. Sixth soul skill, Blood Wolf Moon Howl. The soul skill Blood Wolf Moon Howl could give his opponent a great spiritual shock and stimulate his own bloodline simultaneously. Using this soul skill, he could utilize offensive and defensive abilities 3 times stronger than what he usually possessed. Unfortunately, he was facing Yi Xinglan, who had honed her swordsmanship to perfection. When she was one with her sword, the spiritual shock from the Blood Wolf Moon Howl did not even affect Yi Xinglan in the slightest. The huge sword which descended from the skies had sent the huge wolf evil soul master flying with a slash. A large crack appeared on the one-word battle armor which protected his body. It split the armor open at its center, where it left a huge gash on his body so deep that his bones were visible. This happened even when he was under the protection of the blood wolf Moon Howl. Otherwise, the huge wolf evil soul master's body would have been cleaved into two halves. The holy light on Yu Jingyu's body dimmed abruptly, but his whole body had turned golden in color. Even the wings on his back had turned golden. The holy sword in his hands burned with holy flames, and he was intensely focused. His fifth soul ring burst forth with light. Golden light patterns swirled on his body. The golden little angels which had appeared during the Sea God Lake Date Festival appeared behind him now. They suddenly and silently merged into his body. Yu Jinyu's body shook. Another pair of feathered wings emerged from his back. This pair of wings were illusory, but the holy aura erupting from his body increased by leaps and bounds. The sky suddenly lit up at this instant. It was as if the sun had appeared in the night sky. A golden light column descended from the skies and fell on Yu Jingyu. A six-winged angel's shadow also appeared in the high skies. The holy sword in Yu Jingyu's hands was like a mirror which reflected the light. It reflected the huge light column which descended from the skies onto the Dark Rider. The nightmarish warhorse of the Dark Rider let out a soundless howl. Black flames rose and completely enveloped the Dark Rider's body. The Dark Rider's sixth soul ring lit up. He gripped his huge sword with his hands and made a sudden horizontal swing as he decapitated himself. His head rolled down between his hips. However, the dark aura on his body burst forth with a never-seen-before terrifying wave. He flung the huge sword horizontally and it collided with Yu Jinyu's fifth soul skill. Yu Jinyu's fifth soul skill, Archangel's Wrath. He summoned the purest light of holy power to sweep all traces of evil clean. The battle seemed to have transitioned from a deadlock to a fight to the death in an instant. Boom! Golden light burst forth with power into the air like fireworks. In the end, Yu Jingyu was still affected despite the clown evil soul master's weakening. Amidst the purplish black sword gleam, he was sent flying backward by the slash. However, the Dark Rider was not at an advantage either. His warhorse shattered into pieces which burned with golden flames. With no other choice, he had transferred the holy light of Archangel's Wrath to his steed. He too was stained with holy light as well. He could only urge his soul power to continue resisting the holy light. Both sides suffered losses. The most shocking energy bursts did not come from the three main assault system battle soul masters but Xu Xiaoyan. She raised her star wheel staff high above her head. Xu Xiaoyan mumbled something. Her third soul ring shone brightly, dazzling starlight. Beams of starlight shot forth from her body. At the same instant, Yixinglan, Yu Jingyu, and Yuan Yehue burst with energetic beams of starlight which wrapped around all the evil soul masters. Xu Xiaoyan had not unleashed her collective controlling soul skill yet because she was just waiting for this opportunity. To control one's opponent, it was crucial to catch one's opponent off guard. To be able to catch them unaware was of utmost importance. The starlight seemed to have eyes of their own as they fell onto every evil soul master. The coordination between the members of Shrek 7 Monsters was immaculate. Starlight flickered on Xu Xiaoyan's body. When the brilliant starlight beams appeared, the trio Yu Jingyu, Yuan Yehue, and Yixinglan who were at the forefront reacted immediately. They swiftly dodged to the side and gave way to the starlight's attacks. Xu Xiaoyan's one-word battle armor was dark blue. Spots of starlight shone on it. It was like the night sky and the stars. The name of her one-word armor was Star. The Shrek 7 Monsters Master Control Soul Master's combat abilities had been fully demonstrated at this moment. When the beams of starlight fell onto the Veil Soul Masters with precision, they seemed to have been frozen in time as they stopped moving. How could the others let go of such a good opportunity? The 4 clones produced by Xie Xie moved swiftly. In an instant, 4 evil soul masters with relatively inferior cultivation bases had their throats slit. Yuan Yehue leaped. Her pair of hammers moved like meteors chasing after the moon and landed consecutively and mercilessly on the skeleton evil soul master's chest. Amidst the crisp sound of breaking bones, the skeleton evil soul master was sent flying. Yu Jingyu gritted his teeth. He tried hard to bear the discomfort on his body as he guided the holy sword in his grip. The beam of light of judgment trailed right behind the starlight beams as it fell onto the dark rider who had transformed into a terrifying rider. The combination of the two lights rendered his entire body in dense golden lighting. Yi Xinglan had just unleashed her fifth soul skill, Star Sword. Currently, she held the Star God Sword in her hands, and her entire battle armor burst forth with starlight, Sword God's Star. She transformed into a mass of blazing starlight as she swept past the huge wolf Evil Soul Master's side in an instant. Although it was only her first soul skill, it was extremely fast. Under the enhancement of her battle armor and Star God Sword, its prowess was extraordinary. Most of the Evil Soul Masters seemed to have received grave wounds simultaneously. Seizing this opportunity, Xu Lixi tossed the recovery pork buns in his hands to his comrades so they need only open their mouths to take a bite. Tang Wulin also seized this opportunity. He rode the Overlord Dragon and charged over. The majestic Overlord Dragon rampaged on. It had not reached the others yet, but already a huge flame shot out from its mouth. This Overlord Dragon spirit soul was connected to Tang Wulin at the spiritual level. It shot out a mouthful of flames which engulfed the remaining Evil Soul Masters which had posed a threat to Xie Xie and the others. The flames shot out by the Overlord Dragon was dragon fire for real. As the most powerful land dragon king, the Overlord Dragon's combat strength was not inferior to a true dragon. In a certain way, it was even more terrifying than a true dragon. Once the Overlord Dragon transformed and grew wings, it would be close to the ranks of the 9 great dragon kings. The scorching dragon fire swept past them, leaving a trail of ashes in its wake. The dragon clan's dragon fire did not invoke the origin energy's fire element of the outside world. Instead, it was a special type of fire nurtured within its own body. Its temperature was much higher than Guu's blue fireball which she unleashed previously. Moreover, with the tenacity of the Overlord Dragon, the flames it shot out in a flash was overwhelming in its volume. Dazzling starlight could freeze a person's movements for a second. It was during this split second in which the fates of countless men decided. The tide of the battle seemed to have reversed in an instant. Xu Xiaoyon's controls were not done yet. A circle of golden halo seemed to have appeared instantly under the skeleton Evil Soul Master who was sent flying previously. He had just recovered from the dazzling starlight and was experiencing intense pain. Now, his body was wrapped by star wheel shackles which bound him to the ground and completely restricted his movements. When Yuan Yehue struck out with her pair of hammers just now, she had sent him flying in Tang Wulin's direction. She saw that Tang Wulin had already taken care of his own opponent and was rushing over. Although they were not familiar with the Overlord Dragon of Tang Wulin, they had absolute confidence in Tang Wulin's strength. When the skeleton Evil Soul Master's body was fixed to a spot, he could not do anything except to stare as the humongous entity came toward him. The Overlord Dragon's tail curved upward. It retracted its pair of 4 claws before its chest. It made a skip step with its overly thick-set legs and leaped. With its humongous body, it looked a little clumsy when it leaped. Its gaze was not as fierce as it was before. On the other hand, the skeleton Evil Soul Master's gaze showed despair. With a height of more than 60 meters, the colossal creature with a body as massive as a lofty mountain descended from the skies. The skeleton Evil Soul Master was 10 meters tall and was considered huge. However, when a height of 10 meters and a height of 60 meters were compared, the difference in their bulk would not only be 6-fold, but more than 60-fold. The most terrifying part of the Overlord Dragon was its body, which turned out to be incredibly tough. Crutch-chick. Amidst the continuous sound of breaking bones, the skeleton Evil Soul Master turned into a pile of shards. Yuan Yehue brandished her pair of hammers and went straight toward the Dark Rider who was enveloped by Yu Jingyu's light of judgment. Without a doubt, victory was imminent for the Shrek 7 monsters. The clown Evil Soul Master who has been hiding behind his accomplices suddenly registered shock on his face. When the Overlord Dragon shattered the skeleton Evil Soul Master's body with its feet, his slow curse had been cast on the Overlord Dragon. The Overlord Dragon roared furiously. A layer of dark golden glow shone on its body. The slow curse was ineffective. This was the Overlord Dragon's inborn ability, which was known as Overlord. The effects of all control-type soul skills would be extremely weakened in its presence. Although the Clown Evil Soul Master had 6 rings, his life's rank was vastly different from the Overlord Dragon's. That was why his slow curse did not even have the slightest impact on it. The Clown Evil Soul Master's curse had failed as he turned to flee. He could tell that things were not in his favor. He raised a hand and a ball of yellowish light shot into the sky. Immediately, a ferocious yellow skeleton's shadow burst forth. The Overlord Dragon shot out a mouthful of dragon fire which encompassed a large area and blocked the path of the Clown Evil Soul Master. Golden light flashed in the skies. In the next instant, the terrified Clown Evil Soul Master was impaled by the golden light and nailed to the ground. It was the golden dragon spear hurled by Tang Wulin. The time of the Overlord Dragon was also up. It transformed into a shadow and merged into Tang Wulin's body as it vanished. The 9-colored bracelet on Tang Wulin's wrist flickered faintly for a brief moment. Light swirled within the crystal on the bracelet. It looked exceptionally beautiful in the darkness of the night. Tang Wulin leaped forward and landed close to the golden dragon spear. The instant he gripped the golden dragon spear, the clown's body which was impaled by the dragon spear trembled. His body swiftly withered, turning into a dried carcass. Tang Wulin felt pure life energy from the golden dragon spear entering his body. It was not that powerful. Its energy did not seem to be proportionate with the Clown Evil Soul Master's 6-ring cultivation base. He understood a while later after a slight shock. There was a close relationship between the mildness of the Evil Soul Master's life energy and his evil abilities. He reckoned that the Evil Soul Masters would have weaker life energies. However, the aggressive nature of the Golden Dragon Spear was apparent. He raised his head and glanced at the yellow skeleton fireworks which were still in the skies. Tang Wulin wore a slight frown. Was this a signal for a retreat or a request for reinforcements? If it was the latter, then he was afraid that they would have more trouble coming their way. The nearby city must have received word of the derailed train by now. However, he was not sure when the rescue team from the federal government would arrive. The Skeleton Evil Soul Master and Clown Evil Soul Master had fallen consecutively. With the combined strengths of everyone, the other Evil Soul Master experts were also dealt with swiftly. With Xu Xiaoyan's powerful controls, these Evil Soul Masters could not run away even if they wanted to. From afar, Gold Song had scurried back swiftly. It killed all the people in black who had been slaying the passengers. Gold Song looked less like a snake right now. It was more than 7 meters in length, and its body was a brilliant golden color with the 2 protrusions on its head. It even grew a pair of 4 claws under its belly. The sharp claws clutched at the ground, enabling it to move faster. Its pair of brilliant golden eyes would display a gentle glow only when they were looking at Tang Wulin, otherwise, it was always cold. It was Tang Wulin's first spirit soul. The soul skills Bind and Blue-Silver Impaling Array were given to Tang Wulin by Gold Song. The tenacity of its body was nourished by the Golden Dragon King's bloodline. It seemed to be growing into the semblance of a dragon with each passing day. It was possible for a spirit soul to grow. Usually, the spirit soul's growth relied on absorbing spiritual energy on the Spirit Ascension platform. It was apparent that Gold Song not only absorbed spiritual energy, but also the blood essence power which originated from Tang Wulin. It would evolve with every unsealing of the Golden Dragon King's seal. Tang Wulin had spent 3 years in the Dragon Valley. Absorbing those dragon spirits had brought immense benefits. Although it was weaker than the Overlord Dragon, its evolution had been continuous. It would eventually evolve into a dragon one day. Come on, let's hurry to rescue the other people. We don't know if the Evil Soul Master had fired a signal for reinforcements or not. I hope that the Federation troops will arrive soon. First, let's rescue the people, Yi Xinglan said with a frown. Regardless of whether the Evil Soul Masters called for reinforcements, they could not just leave. Countless passengers were killed inside the train, and many more needed help. The dead needed retrieving while the wounded needed healing. None of them were skilled in healing, but Xu Lishi's recovery pork buns could at least increase the likelihood of the wounded passengers being treated. Tang Wulin said to Xu Lishi, give us each of your 3rd, 4th, and 5th soul skill buns. We might not make it in time if the evil Soul Master's reinforcements arrive. Okay. Shulishi replied and started chanting his spells. Buns started appearing one after another. The others quickly retrieved them. With the enhancement of his soul power from his battle armor, the overall density of Shulishi's soul power was the most powerful among them all. He continued producing the buns as they charged swiftly toward the cars. When they were rescuing the passengers, Tang Wulin demonstrated his advantage of being heavily gifted with nature's endowments. He unleashed his blue-silver Emperor Martial Soul and the huge vines surged into the cars like large pythons. They acted like lifting jacks as they braced the compressed space. They also acted as stretchers by transporting the casualties out from the wreck. With Tang Wulin's Spirit Abyss spiritual powers control, using the vines were the quickest way in rescuing the passengers. The others simply followed beside him. They carried out some first aid treatment on the casualties